Hello, my name is Greta.
Hello, I'm Evelyn.
And today we have an English version of Erasmus podcast. And our guest is Ottavio.
Our first question, of course, is who are you? What do you do? Where do you come from? So tell more about yourself.
Okay, that's a lot of information in once. As the name sounds, I come from Italy. I was one of the first Italians, I think, exploring Estonia back in the days in 2006, coming here to Estonia. I'm from northern region from Italy. I come from close to Milan, Lake Como. Some people know it. It's a very nice region, very beautiful for holidaying and hiking and going to the lakes and all of that stuff. But when you're 20-something, it's not as exciting as going abroad. So when I was 20-something, that's how I decided to explore a bit of the world, and I ended up in here.
What did you study at your home university?
That was communication sciences.
And what is your alma mater?
It's Milan. It's Ulm University, which ironically means cruel in Estonian, as I refer it. It's very academical in the sense of book-based university, and very differently from here, where I've got much more hands-on type of work, which was a kind of a cool thing back then for me, because in there we just had theories of everything.
Yeah, you were an exchange student.
Yeah. So I came here first. I wanted to go and do an experience abroad while I was studying, and Erasmus was just the best opportunity that was available. I discovered it because a couple of friends did it before me, and they invited me to go and visit them. So I went in the Netherlands, I went to Spain, and to be honest, I was bought in the vibe back then rather than the learning opportunities. But it still excited me so much, just the idea of traveling and meeting people from other countries. So that's how I picked the most faraway place I could figure, because it sounded more like an adventure than going to the actual normal places. Well, back then there were actually two people from my university that came here, and we were the first ones from my university. So we were kind of pioneers of coming to Estonia. Now there's plenty more, and everybody knows where Estonia is, and that it's cool, and that it's something that you really should go and try out. But back then we had no idea where we were going. I remember that I knew absolutely nothing. So it was literally, I wanted to go into the void. I wanted to go in the most unknown place I could think of. Like, honestly, I checked on the map where Estonia was after I got accepted.
Cool.
Yeah.
We will definitely get back to that. But we actually have this lightning round of questions.
Right.
We hope you can answer with the first thought that comes to mind.
Okay.
And if we're finished with that, we will go back to the regular questions.
Okay.
So what was the first foreign country you ever visited?
Spain.
What did you do there?
I was on a holiday with my parents. 15, I think I was. 14.
But what is the furthest destination you have been to?
Hard to say. Depending on, I haven't counted. I think Thailand or California. I'm not sure which one is more far away from here.
Do you remember when you first heard about the Erasmus?
Yes, it was the first year of university.
If you think about the Erasmus and friends, who is the first person that comes to mind?
I have two people that are straight in my mind, which are the first two flatmates that I had when I arrived here. So I was in the university dormitory of Tallinna University, which back then was very different from what it is right now. And the two people that I met first, which kept being very good friends over time, one is the same Italian guy that came from the same university. We didn't know each other. We just met in Estonia. His name is Andrea. And the other one is a Spanish girl that eventually she had to learn Italian to speak with us because English somehow wasn't an option for us. And her name is Inma. And these are and we're still in touch 15, 16 years later.
But when we're still on the topic of friends, have you visited some of your Erasmus friends, or have they visited you after the experience?
Yes, of course. Yeah. Friends in Germany, in Spain. I have visited many of the friends that I've made during this time over the years. And many of them, they're still in Estonia. They're Estonians. Many of them, they came back to live in Estonia. So I think that over the years, I've had a large number of vacations and trips that included me visiting my friends around Europe or my friends coming to visit me in here.
When you had applied to come to Estonia,
yeah,
and then you went to the map and searched where it was, did you have any like prejudice or thoughts what it would be like?
Honestly, no. I think it was too. I guess I was just curious, but I was very ignorantly not looking for information. I just thought, I'm going to a place that I don't really know much about. I guess it's going to be cool. I actually had no idea about the whole, relationship, for instance, with Russia, or the relationship with the rest of the Nordic countries. So no, I came with a completely blank state in my mind, and that was very cool because I was genuinely curious. It was very interesting and very exciting, and maybe I just didn't want to spoil the experience. That's why.
I think it's important to mention that you came here in 2006.
Yes.
So how difficult it was to find some information about Estonia? Did you actually have to go to a library?
No, I don't remember visiting libraries. I just took my flight and I came here. I really didn't.
What did your close ones think about that?
That I was kind of crazy. But that was not a new thought. That was something that was kind of expected from me. People weren't really concerned or worried. Of course, everybody thought that I was just going to stay for 6 months and that's it, and not 16 years and counting.
What was your first impression of Estonia?
It felt like, because I was in this dormitory, and it was a bit old school dormitory. Now it's very much
polite.
Yeah, well, I was looking for that kind of experience. I was looking for kind of a grungy style thing because I've always been in very nice environments. My university back in Milan was very nice and clean and tidy, and I was kind of looking for something that was really different. So we arrived, and it was a bit grunge. This 90s feeling of things, and we were living. I think we were 18 inside of that one dormitory. 18 people sharing the same kitchen. 18 people sharing, I think, 4 bathrooms. It felt very much like the student style type of thing that you would expect from. It was a bit rough in that sense, but that was just the first part. And I think that what I've seen back then was a very, you discover a place through time. You see a little part of it, and then slowly you start to discover everything else. And when you arrive, and especially if you're inside of an environment where you're together with lots of other people that are young, you see a very small slice of something. And that small slice none of that really mattered because it was fun. It was lots of fun. It was a lots of just excitement of getting to know new people, meeting new people, and people from so many different countries that, they could have put us, I think, inside of a cave and it wouldn't have mattered. But back then it really didn't matter because we were just too overwhelmed by the excitement and the cool part of starting this experience than anything else.
But if you talk to your friends or family today about Estonia, what do you say today to the people who haven't been here?
This is one of the most exciting places to be right now. I think in Europe. I'm very happy that I decided to stay. It is an exciting, vibrant, energetic place to be. And there's so many advantages of living here compared to many other places that it's no surprise that so many people are coming over here right now. Professionally speaking, it has to do with how vibrant the IT world is and the startup world is, and how this is self-fueling. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy of excitement over let's do something, let's make it happen, we can make it happen, this is a place where you can make it happen. And of course, you go around and brag about all the e-services and, oh, you're still doing your tax reports. It's like, yeah, I did it on the train in 5 minutes. Plus, there is the awesomeness of the nature outside that is just uncomparable to how easy to access it is compared to many other places.
I think there's a fact that if you're in Estonia, at any given moment, at any given place, you need to drive 10 kilometers to get to the nearest bog. Where you are in Estonia.
Fair enough, I didn't know that.
Me neither, but sounds accurate. Back then, which lectures did you choose?
What I did in here was very different than the traditional Erasmus. So officially I came here to write my thesis. So I just had to research my thesis, which back then I wrote on economics. It was marketing economics. It was on Skype. So yeah, effectively I didn't really need to be involved with university life on a real daily basis. I decided to take some courses, of course. I took courses that didn't really exist back in my university because it was very theoretical. So I did some, I think I had some television production course. It was back then. It was Baltic Film and Media School, which was far away from the center in Lasnamäe. Now they have this beautiful building in Narvamant in the center.
What was your everyday life like back then?
Which version do you want? Do you want the official version? Let's put it that way. There was a lot of partying involved. There was a lot of meeting friends involved. There was a lot of trips involved, a little bit of studying involved, and a little bit of thesis writing involved.
What were your favorite places outside of Tallinn?
We've done a lot of events with ESN, so we've been going to lots of countryside houses and sauna events. So I would say there wasn't really a specific place. It was mostly spending time in forest and nature and this kind of experiences.
So what do you think about sauna?
Now, or back then? Well, the first time was scary. It's never had a sauna in Italy. That's not the thing that you do. It's something that feels very, very weird or like strange, or you can die. People. I would talk to my parents. I'm like, "Are you really going to do that? You need to meet the doctor before." I'm like, "I don't know. Here, everybody goes there." Loved it. Loved it. First time was a bit scary, but then you get used to it. You get used to jumping in the snow afterwards or jumping in the river, and it quickly became one of the most favorite activities to undertake. Yes.
So, but expectation versus reality. What surprised you the most?
Again, as I said, I didn't really have much of expectations, and I think that back then the reality was pretty much what I was thinking about, or even more, because of this super cohesive experience. I think the most beautiful thing of those times is the experience, the cohesive experience that you get with all the people that you have around you, the friends that you make for a lifetime, the time that you spend with them, the things that you will remember, the small things that you remember for 20 years after, even though you might have a very bad memory as I do. It's a life-changing experience. It is the thing that opens you to talk to and to be really part of Europe, part of the world, rather than looking at yourself as representative of one country and that's it. I'm Italian, that's it. Italy. Oh, okay, Italy. And then I think that it teaches you to look at reality in a different way, because you spend so much time with people from other places that the boundaries, they start to melt. And of course you will keep on playing around and joke about the whole, I'm from Italy, and then and all that stuff, right? But you do that for a while. You do it as a joke, but inside of you there is this realization that there's much more to that than the borders between the countries. And it sounds stupid. Maybe it's banal to say, but I think that is the kind of experience that pushes that process inside of your mind so much further and so much faster than anything else. And you start to perceive Europe or the world in broader terms in such a completely different way that is magic.
And what else did Erasmus change about you?
I started to drink long coffee instead of espresso. I used to drink only espresso, and then I got into long cups of coffee, and then I thought it was never going to happen, but it did. Yeah. Maybe it's not as deep as the previous thing, but that's the first thing that comes to my mind right now.
Do you also remember like some cultural clashes between the way you expressed yourself and your culture and between Estonians?
Yeah, got a favorite story. I think it was the second or third week I was in here. Italians were used to kiss, right? You give 2 kisses, 3 kisses. Cheek, 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 3 kisses. And it's so much ingrained inside of or it used to be before this year, ingrained inside of the culture that you would expect that the rest of the world does the same. It was the second week. We were at the park with some of the people from our dormitory, some of our friends, and then there's some local. There's an Estonian girl with us, and we were spending the afternoon together. We were just chit-chatting, simple as that. And then we're all going back. And at some point, I am alone with her. We get to a traffic light, and it's about to say goodbye. And me, as a most natural thing that I could say is I'm saying goodbye, and I reach out to give her the normal 3 kisses that I would expect, and she totally freaked out. And she got so scared, and I got scared because I didn't know what did I do that was weird, and it took me a while to realize that was a pure culture clash. And since then, I became very socially awkward. I don't really know how to interact with people, whether I should shake my hand or whether I should, I don't know. Now it's easy because you just, touch people with the elbow. But before, it was really weird. And then it happened to me that I got used to this, so not to have physical interactions or just shaking hands with people. At some point, I went to Spain. For a few days, I was visiting a friend, and we are, again, in a social environment, and I'm introduced to people, and I shake my hand, I stay a little bit distant, and I shake my hand being a little bit distant. And I got actually a person being pissed at me because of that. Like, dude, you're afraid of me or what? I'm like, I don't know anymore what to do in this world. How do I greet people? So that's also one thing that changed over time because of this.
But how was your return to Italy after your Erasmus exchange?
I remember I was so energetic, and lots of friends that they didn't recognize me anymore. There was this incredible excitement about things because my life in here was so much more filled up with events, with people, with new people, that I came back and I wanted to get the same. So I was trying to involve all my friends to do plenty more than we ever done, and they kind of recognized me for it's something changed. They felt that. I was finishing my degree, so I spent some time still studying. I had still a few exams that I had to do. I think it was a bit slow return to a slower life. So if I look at it, there was a faster life in Estonia and a slower life in there, especially because I come from a small town, which means that things, as I said, are a little bit different. But then again, I kept on wanting to go travel abroad. So after a bit, I went to live in Spain for a while.
How did you end up back in Estonia?
I felt that itch. Friend of mine invited me for a few days to come back to Estonia. He had a party, said, birthday party, come over. I was like, okay, yeah, sure. So I came, it was beautiful. It was summer, sunny days, no signs of winter or ice of any kind. And it was such a beautiful time that it just called back come back to Estonia. And then I found a master that was very fitting with what I wanted to do. It was a master in interactive media. That was just a solution to it. And I just thought, okay, I'm coming back. So yeah, made the papers. And then 2009, I came back to Estonia.
What do you do now?
That's a very good question, of which I'm mostly consulting. I'm working as a CMO. I'm doing marketing for dance music television. And at the same time, I have one startup. We're producing synthesizers. We're in an early stage, making small music machine thingies. And yeah, and I have another own company where I used to do interactive devices for entertainment. I have a bit of difficulties in defining exactly what I do in one word, but I'm mostly involved with interaction design and marketing as the two main topics of my life. And I have a course in ESKiga every January.
How often do you go to Italy?
Very often. I go to Italy typically 2 or 3 times a year. I keep good connection with my friends and family back in Italy. So because of what I do as my job, I am completely flexible in where I am, and that allows me to be able to kind of live a bit in here and a bit in there. Although most of my time I'm in Estonia, but I do manage to take, let's say, a month and a half every year where I'm in Italy, and especially during the darkness.
If you had to describe Erasmus in 3 words, what would those 3 words be?
So the first thing I think about is literally the fun. So I guess that the word fun is, maybe it's not the most appropriate if we look at it from a purely proper perspective of going and learning abroad. But I think that's the emotional level of living the moment, being inside of each moment that you're living, the mindfulness of it, if you want to take it into more adult terms than fun. But I think that's it. It's the fact that you're constantly so much stimulated by good emotions, and it's a lot of great feelings that are constantly one after the other. You have the discovery of a country, so maybe discovery is the second word. Weird food, yes. My Erasmus was characterized by very weird food. Now, the thing is that food in Estonia has changed drastically over the past 15 years in a way that it's undescribable for whoever is listening to the other side of this wire. I think weird food is the third word that characterized my staying in here. I had a lot of really weird is politically correct. Let's call it weird food back then. Yes.
So what were the weirdest stuff you had to eat?
For purposes of privacy, I will not describe entirely the setting, but I do remember having very weirdly cooked pasta.
All the Estonians overboil it, don't they?
Oh. That was terrible.
I mean, I have a Sicilian friend, and when I started to visit his home back in Sicily, after that I can't eat pasta in most of Estonian restaurants because it's always overcooked. So I'm with you on that. It's weird. Why do they do that? And it even says on the package 7 minutes, people.
Yeah, and then it was 14 minutes. Like, you have instructions. It's written 7. But I've got to say that it has changed so much dramatically right now that right now it is a pleasure to go out and eat. Now it's amazing. Now it is an amazing. 15 years ago, 16 years ago, that was a very challenging proposition to go out for dinner. It was very, very challenging, as in, do not eat outside. Sorry.
If you should say something to the people who are hesitant whether to use the Erasmus experience or not, what would you suggest to them?
Do it. Yeah, it is a life-changing experience. The thing is, it sounds banal, but many of the things that you feel about this experience, and I do think it's one of the biggest experiences that I've had in my life, most life-changing. And I know that I could have had the same level of openness towards the rest of the world, for instance, understanding the rest of the world throughout time without doing Erasmus. I could have, like many of the aspects that changed in me, they could have happened in different ways without the Erasmus. But the thing is that that experience is such a concentrated, fun, energetic avalanche that it's just going to make all of that in such a beautiful package that it's just irresistible. So if you have the opportunity to do it, if you can do it, because it's because I believe it's one of the strongest and most beautiful and exciting experiences that you can possibly have.
Do you also feel like you studied something new about Italy while being in Estonia?
I look at Italy very much differently right now. I think that whenever you are exposed to a different world, you tend to re-examine who you are and what are the assumptions that you have about yourself and your culture. And I think that this is not just something that happened during those 6 months of my Erasmus, but this is something that it's an ongoing process. It's something that it happens over time. But the first experience from the Erasmus did that I think in a strong way. So the thing is that during the Erasmus time, at least my experience was to spend 95% of my time with foreigners, and 5% foreigners as in expats or people from the rest of Europe, and 5% with actual Estonians. So in a way, it's kind of funny because I feel that I was a bit inside of a cultural bubble. You are inside of a cultural bubble. It's a beautiful cultural bubble. It's magic because it's self-created, it's self-contained, and it has all the elements of a honeymoon, right? But you are not. At least I wasn't. I wasn't so much active within the Estonian community because all of my friends, my pre-made dish of friends, that were so many and it was so cool, it was the international friends. In that sense, you are confronting yourself with all the different cultures. And at some point it might become a little bit fuzzy because the countries by themselves, they kind of disappear in a way. You're not focusing too much on that. It's when you have one-to-one that this distinction becomes a little bit more clear, if you understand what I mean, if it's clear enough. So I think that my process of re-understanding Italy and being Italian started a little bit more properly afterwards. So when I came back and I started to do my master, that's when I had much more relation with Estonians. So then 80% of my friends, Estonians, 20% foreigners or from other cultures, other countries. And that's the moment when I think I started to maybe have more of this dichotomy, the north versus the south, the north of Europe, south of Europe, Italian, what does it mean? It's Mediterranean, right? It's not really about Italy or Spain or Portugal. Pretty much very similar cultures, or Greece. But it's this south and north part where you start to see, okay, how people live their youth. Like, okay, in Italy, I was just reading the other day an article, people go out of home at 30, when they're 30 years old. In here, people go out when they're 19 years old. And then you start to notice all these other different aspects, and you start to think, okay, how are they affecting me? The way we eat, the way we drink, the way we look at social interactions, the moments, how we create the moments. I started to discover that later.
I think now is the proper time to say thank you for creating this moment and this conversation and being a part of our podcast.
Actually, thank you for having me. It was fun.
Thank you.